We need to eat. We need a roof over our heads. It's helpful to have clothes to put on every day. That's just survival. We know that life is expensive. We need income. We strive for income. We stress over income. Whatever income we have, it's never enough. We wake up in the morning knowing we need to go out and get more, or support someone who does. Generally, there are 3 ways to get income. Number 1, you sell your hours and your skills to someone who buys them to get their work done. You're an employee. Your employer uses your time and talent to create, sell, and support their products and services. You get your hourly or yearly rate, and the profit rolls up to your employer. Number 2, you create and market your own products and services. You're an entrepreneur. If you can't do it all yourself, you buy the time and talent of employees to do it for you. The profit rolls up to you. And number 3, you purchase and own one or more assets that generate income by virtue of being worth more than what you paid for them over time. You are an investor. Now, I would argue that you will never achieve true freedom in this life without having at least 2 of these 3 in play. Too many people rely entirely on their role as an employee. There are so many ways that dependence can fail. If your primary income source is a job, I want you to think about your next 3 paychecks. If you miss the next 3 paychecks, would important things start to be taken away from you? Would you be in danger of losing a car, a home? Would you start to wonder where your next meal is coming from? If that's where you'd be, you are by definition a poor person. And it doesn't matter if those paychecks are based on a salary of $200,000 a year. If you are only 3 paychecks away from poverty, you're already there. You are living so far beyond your means that you are tempting fate with your lifestyle, and unless you do something to extend your viability, it's not a matter of if, but when you crash and burn. But Mike, what can I do? My job doesn't pay enough for me to build a big nest egg. Okay, and whose fault is that? Your employer's? Why don't you go ask him or her for more? Now, if your boss says no, what does that tell you? There's an algorithm that tells your employer what your time is worth. If you think it's worth more, you either need to rewrite the algorithm by becoming an indispensable outlier or go get it from someone else. What's that? No one's offering you more? What does that tell you? You need to upgrade yourself, and since that takes time, downgrade your lifestyle. And you would also be very wise to start mixing in some of number 2. The best answer to a need for more income is not to go out and get another part-time job. This is a recipe for burnout and despair. No, that time is vastly better used to start building a business of your own. Does this scare you? Now, I'm not talking about the lame concept of a side hustle. I'm talking about making a product or service based in your expertise and the solutions to other people's problems and putting it up for sale. I'm talking about using social media to grow an audience of potential clients and letting them know your services are available. Now, how to go about creating a strong number 2, your own business, is a big topic, and it's important that you find the best teachers and mentors for you. I'm not talking about going back to school in a traditional sense. Lectures and degrees are not the answer unless you want to join one of the professions like law, medicine, or engineering. The internet has become a vast arena of open source education. With focus and discernment, you can learn what you need to learn. Now, countless people have been successful at eventually replacing number 1, the role of employee, with number 2, the role of entrepreneur, and they have found greater purpose in their lives by doing it. It's not easy, and it could take years. Is it worth it? Well, that depends on how much you like or hate the job you have now. Living with the intolerable is just not very smart. And yes, you do have a choice. Now, if you do love your employment and you never want to leave it, you can leverage the entrepreneurial spirit within that role to make it bigger and serve more people. Look for larger, more responsible roles in or out of your current organization and move up. Just please don't climb all the way up a ladder only to find out that it's leaning against the wrong wall. Motivation based purely on the size of your paycheck will eventually lead to disappointment. But even as you are working on either growing your number one or replacing it with your number two, at the same time, you need to be building and nurturing your number three, your investment portfolio. For some, this will include real estate. Historically, the value of purchased homes, condominiums, and apartment units has gone up over time. And at the same time, the purchases can produce potential cash flow by being rented for a monthly price higher than the mortgage you pay. This is not for everyone, and it requires some capital to get started. Now, the stock market is a place where you can participate in the growth of companies created by other brilliant entrepreneurs. You buy shares at today's price with hope and faith that they will become worth much more over time. You do need to understand that the price of these equities is subject to daily change by many more factors than just how good the company is. Macroeconomic, geopolitical, and cultural forces all create volatility. Many financial advisors will tell you to sock away chunks of your earnings in exchange-traded index funds or ETFs, encompassing a basket of stocks of successful companies to enhance your diversification. They'll tell you not to worry about timing the market or picking stocks and just set and forget it. This is great, but remember, every bit of this basket of stocks is at risk at all times, and the possibility of it becoming worth less than what you paid for it originally is very real, and sometimes for years at a time. It's called a recession, and we've all been there. Now, something I've done that helps me feel like I have more control over my investments is to segment a portion of my investing, say 10%, and learn how to actively trade with that allocation. No, I'm not talking about putting up 10% of your savings into a single trade. The size of each trade doesn't need to put at risk more than a fraction of a single percentage of your savings. These days, you can buy partial shares of stock for as little as $1 with no or little fees or commissions. Learn how to read a chart. Learn how to follow the fundamentals. Practice buying what you see as a bargain price and then later selling at what you see as a premium price. By never risking more than a few dollars at a time, you limit your risk on any one trade, and as you get practice, you learn and start to see your win rate and confidence go up over time. Now, most advisors will steer you away from equity derivatives like options and futures that involve leverage. And unless you put in the time to learn how these things actually work, this is wise. The odds of you getting crushed and losing a ton of dough are astronomically high without that knowledge. I spent over 300 hours researching and educating myself on options before I had the confidence to make my first trade. All of this using free online resources, by the way. So what's the point? Why do you need a lot more money than it takes to pay your bills every month? Let me count the reasons. You could lose your job. You could have a disability, a mental health crisis. Your children, major medical expenses, eggs, home repairs, natural disasters, having to replace your heating or air conditioning unit, repairing your car, lawsuits, unexpected disasters. If you've spent most of your life in a paycheck-to-paycheck world where money is scarce, work is a grind, cost limits everything you do and have, and you resent wealthy people, those things could be driving you to the escape valves of mindless entertainment and bad food. It may have become the water you're swimming in. If you don't know anything else, it becomes normal. I would encourage you to make the rest of your life different. Change out the water in the fishbowl. Get some clarity. Discover that abundance is everywhere. Work can be service and joy. Cost can and should be trivial. Wealth enables service and goodness. Can you see the hypocrisy behind complaining about what millionaires and billionaires do with their money? How about you go out and earn some so that you can show them how it's done? What would you do for the world with your 10 million, your $100 million? And if that's too big for you, can you at least catch the vision of preparing yourself and your family for the worst case scenarios that are inevitable parts of life? Isn't life hard enough without assuming that we just have to deal with financial disaster as par for the course? Can you send a clear message, an example to your children and grandchildren that they don't need to live in the cloudy fishbowl of scarcity and lack? If you come from a blue-collar, job-centered background, do you dare break those chains and start a new legacy? Hey, I'm just asking. I'm new at this. I'm a late bloomer. I don't have complete and total financial independence. Not yet. But I'm asking myself these questions, and I'm seeing a clear direction, a clear path. I'm closing the gap between my point A and my point B. And I'd invite you to join me on this path by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Please check out these other related videos on financial topics. Thank you for watching, and carry on.